make sure that we can quantify it. And I truly believe if you can quantify training instead of just a soft skill, you've effectively created a way to justify it. And this is why we want to do that. We want to justify the investment. We want to go to higher levels and say, this is why we're doing this. This is what we're going to get back as an organization. We want to position the training in the organization as a business improvement tool, not something we desperately require because people aren't good enough. We want to make sure that we improve the training programs and the design that we have. You cannot keep something the same for the next 5 or 10 years. There has to be constant preparation to that there. We want to select the right training methods also. You want to make sure that that's being delivered properly. And this is all within there. I'm going to, let me, a very quick example on this here. Now, people tell me, you know what, Edward, this is terrific. It's common sense. I like what I'm hearing. And it's true, it is common sense. But let me tell you something about common sense. Anybody here try to diet or go to exercise and do better? Of course. It's not very easy, is it? We try hard. You know, it's common sense that we're supposed to have 8 glasses of water a day, isn't it? Isn't it common sense if you want to live a healthier life, you should quit smoking? Isn't it common sense that if you drink coffee, you should reduce that? It's not necessarily very good for you in excess. It's common sense that you should exercise 3 times a week for 20 minutes at least. Just because it's common sense, it's not common practice. We do not put it into effect. We know what we have to do. It's simply too difficult to do it on our own. We go to gyms, we hire trainers, people who put us into shape. I'm going to share a quick example with you here of a case study. This is a company that came, and I call this case study, we think, we're sure we might need some training. And this is a case of a client of ours a couple of years ago. Here are the facts. This is a media company in Dubai. They came to see us, it's about 2 years almost now. They're a highly competitive environment in the media industry. They're desperate to keep the best of the best. They lose people on a regular basis. There's very little retention. The company wanted to train 87 staff members, 15 of them from management, 12 admin functions, and 60 sales reps. They'd never done any training before. They chose the training requirements. And they said, listen, this is what we think we need. When we came to see them, they told us we need leadership for all our management. We want sales management skills for our managers. We want communication skills for all 87. Sales training for 60 staff. Negotiating training for the 60. Presentation training skills also. I said, well, that's very nice. Looking at all of that, you're looking at a cost of $283,000. That's good, that's fine, but why are you doing this? So we asked, is this all necessary? Have you looked at the needs analysis? Do we know what the requirements are? Is there a fit with the current skills that they have? And will some of the staff resent you for sending them to training they feel they're very good at already? They might be experts, but you simply decided, as the powers that be, that they have to go into that training program. Can we make better use of the budget? So, first thing we did is we started with a program. We decided to identify where the objectives of the training and the ROI of that program. We set out the training needs analysis so we can make sure we can measure those gaps and we lead towards them. When we were finally done, we determined what they needed was 2 sales workshops, 3 negotiating, 1 leadership, only 1 management, 4 development, and 3 presentation skills workshops. The investment they made was $27,000 for the TNA. Workshops worth $165,000, so $192,000 versus the $283,000 that they were looking to spend. So we looked at $90,000 savings, or 30% savings. And that's fine financially. This is where this became important. We came back to the ROI. And we said, let's find out how we've done. Within 18 months, there was an increase of 23% in sales. Rebates, there was a reduction in new client rebates by 12%. Coaching, became better managers. We created a coaching program. The relationship became much more of a mentor basis than a manager telling them what to do. Clients, we saw an increase in customer satisfaction with the surveys that were run semi-annually. And most importantly, with the retention, the employee surveys that were done had a true impact on what was taken care of. Now, the top 2 of those are highly measurable. They're numbers. The rest of it is soft, but you can measure them through the surveys and so on to see the impact that it has. This was a way for them to come back and say, you know what, this was money well spent. Not only, yes, we spent less than we had anticipated, but we actually see the return on investment. And this is where training starts to make sense and it can be justified as a valuable tool within an organization. Without it, you're simply running blind. You're assuming that things are going very well. I'm going to jump very quickly to this here, and it's the idea of retention. The average cost that we're seeing in executive search for people to replace a middle manager is about 135,000 dirhams. Companies are spending $36,000 to change one manager or replace a manager upon their departure. Now, rule of thumb is it costs about 1 year's salary, but we won't stick with that there. The cumulative costs are even higher when it comes to that. So the reality of it is, any company that loses 3 managers in a given year, you're looking at spending about $110,000 simply to replace these people. Not including lost time, productivity, morale, all of that other stuff that you may not be able to measure in a dollar value. This is something that we have to keep in mind. The reality of it is today, tough economic times will come and go. I'm going to give you a very quick example. I remember the recession in 1990. We thought it was never going to end. We thought the world was coming to an end. This is 1990. We'll go back 20 years. We came out of it in 1995. We had another recession. In 1997, there was a slowdown in the China market, which impacted most of the Western countries. And again, we thought it's the end of the world. And then the year 2000 came around, and we were told in 1999, remember December 31st, 1999? Y2K, the end of the world as we know it. Take your money, close down your house, live underground. It's all over. We survived that also. Then the year 2000 came around. We felt, you know what we should do? We should throw in accounting scandals, and companies like Enron and WorldCom disappeared off the face of the earth. And again, we thought the world will come to an end. Then September 11th, 2001 came about. We thought, my goodness, that changed the landscape all over. What a disaster. Then we said, you know what, that's not enough to scare us. Why don't we throw in a war in Afghanistan? And we said, you know what, that's not enough. A couple of years here, let's throw in a war in Iraq. And on it went. And then we throw a global crisis in 2008, 2009, just to add flavor to the last 20 years that we've been running on. And now we've got the uncertainty of our region. I'll tell you, and I can guarantee you, that's just the last 20 years. You can take the last 100 years, and we've had one thing or another that shows up as an economic tough time. Difficulties, challenges, they're not going to disappear. We as people have learned to deal with it and in fact thrive in those kind of situations. You've got good people that are tough to come by. So when you do get them, you want to make sure you attract them and you hang on to them. Your people are truly your biggest assets, and I would urge you, invest in them. It certainly pays. I'm going to thank you for my time. I think I went over by 3 or 4 minutes, but nonetheless, I'm not sure if there are any questions. And in the interest of time, if there are, you can either see us now if we have the time or otherwise outside. But with that note, I want to thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I'm not sure.
Okay, questions? There we go. Yeah.
Sure.
Only one question. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, as a training person in charge of deciding whether you go ahead with a training for somebody or not, what's the percentage for considering training for people for the purpose of motivating and retaining in comparison with the purpose of upgrading skills and performance in order to produce better results? Or you really don't split these two purposes?
I think it's not a matter of splitting them. I think they coexist. The reality of it is, of course, your ultimate objective to train is to upskill. You look at your people, you want better communication, you give them that program. You want better interpersonal skills, you give them that program. Now, while you're upskilling them in soft programs, the reality is you're also giving them something that betters them as an individual. And that's where the retention process starts to kick in. People take a step back. If I came into an organization and it was a sales environment, and I delivered a sales training program, that's pretty clear. We're doing it for the very specific purpose because as a company, I want better sales. I want to reach and exceed my targets. But when we come in and we deliver a communication or an interpersonal program or presentation skills, really there you're making an investment in that individual. And people realize that. They know while they're sitting in our programs that they're not doing this because it's going to have an absolute direct and profound impact on just their job, but it's having an impact on them as an individual. So I'm not so sure it's easy to split as much as it is simply the coexistence of both sides.
another small question.
Sure.